The core principle of DBT is dialectical philosophy. So in a nutshell, dialectical philosophy is walking the middle path. It also entails looking at all sides of a situation, all points of view. Moving away from black and white thinking, such as always, never. Kids, they're trying to learn their emotions. They're up and down all the time. And so those extremes can also kind of push the parent to be real extreme too. And the goal here is to kind of like find that middle path. Meet that middle ground as a kid, as a parent. There's quite a few different dialectical dilemmas. Those dilemmas are the kind of polarization I'm talking about. The first one is being too loose versus being too strict. The number two is kind of making light of problem behaviors versus making too much of the typical teen behaviors. And the third one is actually forcing independence, kind of pushing, and also holding on too tight or fostering kind of dependence. So the key is finding that balance. Being too loose versus being too strict. And so being too loose means too few demands, not many rules, not many limits in the home. Then you have the other extreme where you have way too many demands, really strict, and there's no flexibility in the home. So the goal for us as clinicians is helping parents find that balance. As a parent, you might let your kid do whatever they want, like coming home late or slacking off on homework. And then for whatever reason, you kind of hit your breaking point. You go to the other extreme and go, hey, I've had it with you, and you're grounded for a month. That's pretty extreme. Like one extreme was you're kind of pretty relaxed, and the other extreme, you're kind of grounding for the month. So when you think about it, does this really work? I was working with this family, and they had a daughter, I think she was around, like 15. The daughter insisted to staying up past midnight. She also even got to the point of asking to stay at her boyfriend's overnight. And the parents responded, but like, no way. You're not even gonna have a boyfriend. You're not even like have a boyfriend until you turn 18 or until you turn 35, whatever. And so they responded in a pretty extreme way. So what is the middle path in that? So middle path would be, okay, of course, staying overnight at a boy's house is definitely inappropriate. So that's off the table. So what is appropriate? Maybe the girl spending time with her boyfriend with the family, so the family can get to them. Maybe if she gets her homework done, maybe she can stay past 10 o'clock texting. To me, as long as they're getting their stuff done, taking care of business and having good relationship with mom and dad, I think we need to really be flexible. And I think when you're willing to come to the table a little bit, your daughter or your son is willing to come to the table as well. I think I've seen parents be really too tight, and that's when they lose their kids. Key here is finding the middle path and avoiding those extremes, because extremes lead to this polarization that I talk about in our relationships with our teenager. And when this happens, you've lost influence. We all know we don't control our kids, but we do have is influence. And the key is maintaining the influence we have as parents with our children. So the second dialectical dilemma is making light of problem behaviors versus making too much of typical teen behavior. When we're making light of problem behaviors, refers to minimizing serious behaviors, such as drug use, such as self-harm, such as even like suicidal ideation. Because a lot of people say, oh, all teens once think they want to die. No, that's not true. I think it's a myth. So that's making light of that stuff. Then the other flip side is kind of where we're making kind of too much of typical teen behavior, means arguing, means not doing your homework or not being compliant or pushing back. That's typical teen behaviors. So the key is helping the parent regain that sense of what's normal, what's not normal for teenagers. Third dialectical dilemma is forcing independence versus holding on too tight. We feel the need of, oh, you turn 18, all of a sudden you have to be independent. I think we might have forced independence too quickly because they turn 18. And the other end, holding on too tight means continually to rescuing, maybe continually to not hold your daughter or your son accountable. Just not allowing that child to kind of be independent. Because ultimately as a parent, our goal is to help our kids become independent. That's our main job as parents. So for example, you have a girl and she is 17, kind of gonna be 18, and unfortunately she gets pregnant. And so during this whole time, parents didn't provide any kind of consequences, didn't really hold this girl accountable, and then she gets pregnant and they say, okay, you're pregnant, you're out of here, we're kicking you out. So you see that kind of extreme where they've been kind of parenting this child by not holding limits and boundaries, and all of a sudden when a negative consequence occurs, they want to kick them out and make this child independent. And so the key is here is that in this situation, of course, it'd be better to hold better boundaries beforehand, but in reality, she's pregnant now, so what do you do? So now it's good to kind of like turn to weaning her to be more independent and kind of slowly move from kind of that fostering independence to independent. But just don't expect that kid to kind of automatically be independent, kind of get them to that point. The families I work with, I really believe they have great innate knowledge of being good parents. So it's not about necessarily like they don't have parenting skills, it's more about emotional functioning. So I really believe that one of the best things you can actually teach a parent is just knowing how to manage their emotions. There are many different types of dialectical dilemmas in parenting, in addition to those three main categories I talked about. So regardless of the type of dilemma, it's really important to find the middle path. I mean, when you're parenting your teen, and not to be overreacting or underreacting. So when parents find this kind of like, get away from these extremes, this world opens up with their daughters. Their daughters are a lot more responsive. Their daughters really relax and loosen up more, and the relationship grows tenfold. We work with great parents, and I think when you've gone through the experiences they have, I mean, the parents have been traumatized, not just the kids in this process, and they lose sight of what that balance is. And I really believe one of the wonderful things that Sunrise does is help parents find that balance again as parents.